Hey, welcome to 12 tone. One of the most common scales in Western music is what's called natural minor. And it sounds awesome. It's a bit dark, a bit sad, and it's crazy flexible, but it's got a bit of a problem. Do you see it? It has to do with this note. You see, Western music revolves around functional harmony where different chords in a scale have different jobs, and the most crucial job of all is pointing the listener back to the tonic or root of the scale. This is called dominant function, and it's the engine that drives the song forward. The thing is, dominant function relies on a specific note called a leading tone in order to work, and that leading tone needs to be right below the tonic. It wants to resolve by half step, but in natural minor, there's no such note. The closest thing is here, which is a whole step away. We fix this with what's called harmonic minor, which is the same scale except we raise the 7th note up to where the leading tone should be. This is kind of the literal definition of good enough, and it comes with some nasty chords like the flat 3 augmented, and the minor major 7, which is a minor triad with a major 7th on top, but hey, it works. You can also switch back and forth between the two scales depending on what you need at the moment, but harmonic minor has its own weakness. This gap here is huge. The scale works fine for chords, but if we want to play a melody with it, we'd like to have smoother steps between our notes, so we invented melodic minor to help out. This is like harmonic minor, but we raise this note to be closer to the middle of the ones around it. As a side note, purists might argue that melodic minor actually has two forms. When it's going up, we use this one, but when we're going down, it reverts back to natural minor. But again, you can just switch between the two of them whenever you want anyway, so I don't think that distinction's all that useful, but I'm sure someone would have mentioned it if I didn't. Anyway, that's all well and good for natural minor, but that's not the only minor scale out there. Any scale with a minor third and a perfect fifth can be considered a minor scale, and most of them are gonna have the exact same problem. For instance, let's look at modes. These are a good place to start with extra scales, and besides natural minor, there's two more minor ones, Dorian and Phrygian. Dorian's not all that interesting here. If we raise the 7th, we just get melodic minor again. Phrygian, on the other hand, does some pretty cool stuff. If we raise the 7th, we get what's called Neapolitan Minor for its association with the Neapolitan School, a group of 18th century operatic composers in Naples, which, by the way, includes a guy named Leonardo Vinci. No, not the same one. Anyway, Neapolitan Minor lets us get that characteristic Phrygian flat 2 sound without sacrificing our dominant function. An interesting consequence of that is that we have notes both a half step above and below the tonic, which gives the scale an uncanny, almost trapped sound. But it still has the same problems harmonic minor did, and it has its own version of melodic minor to solve them. This is called Neapolitan Major, even though it's still a minor scale. Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't find too much on the origin of the name, but the difference between the two scales is whether or not the 6th degree is major or minor, so it probably has to do with that. Anyway, Neapolitan Major gives you smoother melodic options, plus if you take out the root, you've got our old friend, the whole tone scale. But back to Neapolitan Minor, there's one more important feature, the Neapolitan chord, also called the Neapolitan 6th, even though it's not a 6th chord, except it is, but not in the sense we usually... You know what? I'll come back to that. The Neapolitan chord is a major triad built off the flat 2nd degree of the scale. It has subdominant function, which means that its job is to introduce some instability and help set up a dominant chord. But the Neapolitan chord has another trick up its sleeve, inversion. With most chords, we expect the lowest note we hear to be the root of the chord, and you can play the Neapolitan chord like that. But more often we play it with its 3rd degree in the bass, which puts it in what's called first inversion. This makes it even more unstable and almost makes it sound more like a 4 chord than a 2 chord, and this, by the way, is where the name Neapolitan 6th comes from. In the old notation system of figured bass, which we haven't talked about in a long time, we mark that a chord is in first inversion by writing a 6 next to it. So yeah, Neapolitan 6, mystery solved. Also, while it wasn't used like this at the time, another thing I like about the Neapolitan chord is that it closely resembles a tritone substitution, a dominant chord built on the flat 2nd degree of the scale. Tritone substitutions have a very close relationship with primary dominance, so setting one up via the other is a really cool transition. Just something to keep in mind. Oh, and before we go, recently I got the chance to work with some friends of mine to put together a huge collaborative project to help people find awesome new educational channels. Some of my favorite creators on YouTube are in there, as well as a bunch that I'd never heard of before but that look amazing, so if you're looking for new people to follow, check it out. Who knows, maybe you'll even find us again. We're actually not that hard to find. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you want to help make these videos possible, please consider supporting 12 Tone on Patreon. You can also join our mailing list for scans of all our episodes. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and keep on rockin'.